Hello, hello, hello. Welcome again to the Coaches Lounge with yours truly, Barbara J. Beckley, as your host. Now, as I always say, please respect your coaches, respect your mentors, respect the educators out there. And I say that loud and proud because that's why I created this platform, because I wanted to make sure the coaches were getting some love. Coaches, we are always, the biggest thing, our focus is making sure that you are doing your best in whatever aspect that you need coaching in. So, our focus is like laser focus, but then sometimes we forget who we are and we don't get to put that light on us for a minute so you can know what we do as a coach. So I said, okay, you know what? I haven't seen a platform like this. So guess what? I created one. Yes. I always tell people, if you don't see something that's created already, just create it yourself and bring on the coaches, because I bring on every type of coach, because I want people to know, first of all, that that you're a lighthouse of the world, but they're helping and they're guiding you and they're just pushing you to be the light that you have inside of you. So that's what your coaches do. So they're always behind the scenes because they want to make sure you're just rising up. You're going to that next level. But I want to make sure that they're rising up with you so you know exactly who the individual is. So with that said, this is where the wonderful coaches come on. You get to meet them. You get to see their personality. You get to kind of hear their little backstory and just a little bit of how they coach, their coaching styles, their techniques in a sense. So then you can say to yourself, I think I want to hire that person. I think that person needs to be in my life to help me. So today usually when I have women on, I call them queens because I look at royalty is in the house all the time. Now I have a king. I have a king coming on, and it's interesting because his name is King Richard Morden. And, I was like, wow, this really kind of comes together really well. So King, giving him his royalty. He's the founder of Quantum Approach, a coaching practice dedicated to empowering women after divorce. Through his experience and expertise, he guides clients in reclaiming their personal power, setting healthy boundaries, and attracting fulfilling relationships. He's a certified EFT and NLP practitioner. Time Sweep's co-founder in developing Time Sweep, a method designed to spotlight and address emotions linked to sensor experiences and untold stories. Now, I have a lot more, but just hearing that alone is amazing. And we're going to hear from this wonderful King, Richard, right after these words. Barbara J. Beckley, and I'm a visibility and social media strategist. Yes, we are back. We are just tuning in. This is the Coaches Lounge with yours truly, Barbara J. Beckley, your host. And we have a wonderful, amazing guest on. As I said earlier, we have royalty in the house, Mr. King Richard, and amazing at what he does in the world for others. Mr. Richard, I am so happy, and it's a privilege and an honor to have you on the Coaches Lounge.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I'm excited about this call and this discussion. Thank you.
Yes, we're going to have a really wonderful discussion because one thing, like I said, I want to make sure that people get to know you, and then eventually are going to make that phone call and say, hey, I think I need to work with him. So with that, let's start off with, because I always like pulling back that curtain, because you weren't always this magnificent and doing this coaching and speaking and all that stuff. You just went, boop, and were there when you were a baby, right? So I want to make sure that they understand how you got to where you are.
A little background, I guess. I grew up in a small town in north of Toronto, Ontario. I'm a farm kid. Grew up doing farm chores, working for the neighbors, manual labor. A big thing, I think, one lesson I learned from my dad of many was I wasn't allowed to ever give up. You know, when you're a kid, you're not allowed to quit. And I've realized that's been my strength. No matter what I've been going through, I've always stayed on track to work through, because again, giving up was not an option. And I think so. And the biggest thing is not giving up on myself, because we all go through our history, our little traumas, right? And through that, I was a regular guy, married late, had a really good long-term job, but then I married later on, had 2 kids, but my wife died, and the first wife died in 2013. And that was a pivotal point for me, because I realized I wanted to be really present for my kids. And they were just finishing high school and one going off to college. And I said, I'm not going to let you guys down. And I found emotional freedom technique. And that was a turning point in my life, because, you know, I've had multiple family deaths over time, suicide and cancer. So I had all those impacted me. EFT unpacked some of those traumas I didn't even know existed in my body. And that was a turning point of becoming a practitioner a year later, and really spending a long time with my now still trainer, a year in her program of unpacking my own journey. So I'm a very advocate of personal journey. And I'm a very advocate of working with other colleagues on my own stuff, because we're never done. We're never out of the quicksand. We're always in. So that's what I teach, in the sense of I lead because I talk about self-care, and I'm probably one of the few men, you know, and that starts with a simple word called no. But I take care of myself, which spreads to my children and now my second marriage. And so we have a flourishing relationship, because I work on myself to be the best I can be at all times. And we go through our storms. We all go through our chaos. So how do you manage that? And that's what I teach, because, you know, life presents itself. We have a society that's a little bit educational.
That's the best way to put it, Richard. I love that. I'm going to use that.
So, but here I am, you know, and being able to do these modalities, to create a modality, and working on some other stuff. I love the exploration. I love being curious, and that's what I clients, because I'm just a curious cat, allowing you to show who you are, and I'm a guide through that. You know, so I'm a guide. I help you walk through that, but I'm here to help you see you.
Yes. And then, you know, that's why you and I already are, you know, in the same vein, because I'm in the same vein with that, really being true to yourself, being you in front of others, because everybody has, like I said, I was saying earlier, there's special gifts, and, you know, I feel like it needs to be seen, because that's how important it is. Now, I love what you said, Richard, just peeling back the onion a little bit on some of the things you said, where you said, even though you're helping others, you're still working out things within yourself to make sure that you still become that better person. So I always say forever learning, no matter what, you know, until, you know, I always say gain your wings. You should be forever learning, forever working on you, because that makes you the best you for everybody else. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I have to look at myself in the mirror. How do I feel about me when I wake up in the morning? That's what's important for me. You know, this journey is an inside job, and I'm continuously in that process. So why not?
Yeah. And then, you know, I feel like this too, when a person that you're working with sees how real you are and say, look, you know, I might be 2 or 3 or 5 steps ahead of you, but still, I'm still working in progress on myself. So we're here on this journey together. It makes them, I feel like it makes them at ease, and it feels comfortable saying, okay, I'm not the only one. You know, there's a connection there with others.
One of my primary values, Barbara, is authenticity. I think that's what helped when even through my first marriage, raising kids, we were the same person at home as we were out in public, as we were when we dealt with people. And I think that was such a unconscious footprint for our children. You know, they didn't see us bad mouthing or doing things. And again, here I am with my wife and I are nomads. We live in Mexico full time. So, I mean, this is who we are. If you meet me at a coffee shop, I'm the same guy, but I'm going to have a sleeveless shirt on and shorts. You know?
Of course. Now, Richard, let me ask you. Now, are you, just to go back? I just want to make sure. Are you from Canada, or are
Yes,
you?
I am. Yes, I am. We went Western Canada 2020, 2022. We came to Mexico and all we own now is a suitcase each and a backpack. That's what we own, and we have tremendous peace in our life.
I love that. That, you know, that takes a lot of, like you said, courage just to even, you know, do that in your life. I love how you said, you know what, we're just going to do this, and you're happy, and it's, oh, I love that. Yes, definitely.
It's home is in the heart. home is, we're in an Airbnb. Within an hour of walking in the door, getting groceries, we're home.
Yes.
You know, because
Yes.
it's we are home with ourselves and comfortable with ourselves, and we don't need not so we don't need, but we don't have to have these external things in order to validate. We validate ourselves, and that's really what I want to teach people is how to validate you, not look around for some sort of exterior force.
Yes. Because one thing about it, when you say it like that, Richard, the other things around can go or whatever can happen, but you're still going to be you. You're still going to be within yourself. You still have to deal with yourself, like I tell people. So you might as well make sure that you are happy with you and you're really being that true self with yourself and others, because that will always be no matter what's around. So I love how you have that. That's really good. I love it.
Mm.
Now, Richard, I was going to ask you, because you were saying before about moving into some emotional that I know that you deal with. Can you tell us a little bit about the patterns are stored in multiple places? I know you want to talk about a little of the brain and the body, so I wanted to kind of get a little bit into that with you.
Like trauma is stored in the body, and Kessel Vanderkolk's book talks about that. The body keeps the score, because that's, I mean, we put so much emphasis on the brain, but the body's the one responding with the five senses to patterns, to what we feel, to what, when we get, we have the so-called five, I think there's 15 sense, sight, sound, hearing, touch, and taste.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a sound can, a lot of people, jump with a firecracker. A lot of people get flashes of light, like a shadow passing, and they've been in a car accident, so they're going to be nervous tension. People are afraid of the dark. So these patterns are held in the body, and what that comes into is really behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what shows up. Yes, they talk about where it's stored, but what's the behavior from that? And you look at the behavior and from the ACEs study, adverse childhood experiences, they've mapped that all out in the sense of these top 10 experiences in childhood, and they literally can predict your lifespan and your behavior and who you're going to be just from those experiences.
Wow.
So it's all mapped out to say, if you've had these many experiences, this is a prediction of what you're going to be and how you're going to behave.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unconscious, right? So we have what I call reactional behavior. And so we shut down, we isolate, we get angry, we do all kinds of things. We are unable, for most of us, unable to have good communication. And that's for men and women. That's probably one of our biggest issues, is we're not able to have a dialogue of our true selves. And that's my work. And I've had to do it in my own life. My second marriage, we really held ground with each other to have conversations, and not painful ones, to really be open. I didn't have that in my first marriage. So I'm very blessed, but we work together and hold space with each other for us to hear and listen, and then what are you saying? What is it you really mean with that? And it's not easy, but it's worth I would say relationships are our greatest gift and our greatest pain.
Yes, I totally agree. It kind of, yeah. And
Which one's taking over?
Yes, it depending on what the day is too. But but yeah, it's interesting you say that, because when I talk to individuals, be it family, friend, I was thinking about how you said the body reacts, and a lot of times active listening, I always say, is so the key. And it seems like the older I get, I'm learning how to do more and more of that, because a lot of times, not what they say, but how, like you said, they react, how their body responds. You start paying attention to that, so you kind of know that they said they're happy, but body language is saying something a little bit different, or the movement of certain things is saying a little bit different there, the body. So that's kind of like a superpower for us now, because it's like, okay, let's really dig it a little bit deeper. You're not, I can call some, I'm like, you know what? You're not that happy as you think you are right now. You are okay, or so they might be nervous about something. It doesn't have to be their anger. They don't have to be angry all the time, but just something's different. So I like how you said that, that body language, reactions can tell a lot, even than what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, even recognizing a friend who's going through a challenging time, like people say you want to have active and be. I'm not a fan of the face-to-face sometimes conversation if someone's not feeling right. Like it's because sometimes you just need to come up and put a hand on the shoulder and say, "I'm here for you.
Yes.
I'm okay." Like when I lost my first wife, I was so blessed when at work
Mhm.
because so many people come up and just bump me on the shoulder. Hey, man,
Mhm. I
that
hear
acknowledgement meant was a big piece of grace for me to, oh, you saw me, and it didn't have to say anything. It didn't have no, oh, I'm so sorry. It didn't have to be like pleading,
you.
but they
Mhm.
just come up and bumped or come in and say, hey, you all right? And just that was key.
Yes.
And sometimes just sitting with somebody, and I always say, what do people need tonight? They just want somebody to sit with. Don't talk, have your
Yeah.
coffee, shove your coffee at them and just sit there. And if they want to talk, but don't face them. Let sit beside and just let them. People drive, go for, like I said, kids in cars often will talk. They're looking out the window, oh, dad, and it's like, and one lady said, I love the teenagers in the back seat. They forget I'm there. So I'm hearing all their stuff because they don't realize I'm listening.
You're right. That's what I said. Do they realize that we're listening? We're right there, but they don't really think about it. They just be
Yeah.
just do, 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 just
Yeah.
talking. Yeah, but you're right, Richard. It is important. That's why that's why I said going back to the listening and just being there for a person. Sometimes people just want you to be there, present for them, and not so much of I always touch myself. I said, well, before, like I said, I really worked hard on this because especially as a coach, you want to really listen to what a person is going through, dealing with, just at that moment in time. It might just be something they just need to just vent out or whatever. And if you're just so, then you're missing out on them to really just have a ease, at that point.
Well, especially in relationships, whether it's very close or that, if you may ask a person a question, say, I don't know, unless I need an answer, but I'm just posing this, can I be curious? And you just leave it, because sometimes we need time to process and maybe they'll come back with a one-word answer or they'll show you something. It's not always solved face to face. This isn't bartering or a meeting where we have to resolve everything. Sometimes it just takes time, especially for someone who has not been able to share themselves emotionally.
Yeah.
It's a journey and it takes patience. And so it's not something you fix.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dialogue you grow into with safety.
I'm so glad you said it's not something that you fix at the time, because I used to call myself Mrs. Fixer, because I always, when I see a problem for somebody, I want so bad, I'm in my mind, I want to fix it for you. I want you to be free. I just want to, I don't want you hurt no more. That's in my mind, right? And they're like, okay, Barbara, I get it, but no, you can't fix it right now. I need you just to listen. They would tell me, and I'm like, okay. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, I just want to just help him so bad. And then it came epitome to me saying, okay, Barbara, you're helping them by being there, by being present. You're helping them by listening, like you said. You're helping them by just letting them be who they are right now, and deal with, the whatever onion has to be peeled, So yeah, I had to stop trying to be Miss Fixer. I felt like I forgot what that show was with it was the president of the United States. He was playing the president of the United States, but he had the
Yeah.
yeah, and she was called the Fixer. So I said, okay, I can't. No, I'm not that. I need to stop that.
If I might inject something with that, Barbara, because I think mean well. People mean well, very well with it. But what happens is it literally invades the other person.
Yeah.
And overwhelms them, and then they get resentful. Blah blah. Lots of stuff happens. But when my work with people in a sense, and this is where we sometimes want to support our partners, you're helping them develop their own agency. Maybe asking questions, maybe giving tips sometimes as the safety builds and saying, so they're forming their own awareness, therefore their own choices. And that's when people are the most powerful, because they learn to trust themselves. Because oftentimes when people in trauma, they can't even trust themselves. So when we give that space over time, it's like, we're more patient with a traumatized pet than we are with our own partners. When people go to rescue, somebody said they go to things to rescue a pet, but we won't go to a shelter to rescue a person.
That is
you know.
powerful. You're right.
And so when someone is very difficult and in sense of, maybe like I experienced a lot of what I call emotional isolation from what I grew up in and some difficult stuff. So I was just frozen inside, so I wasn't connecting.
Mm,
That takes time. And for someone who's not able to dialogue, you're offering, some support, anything I need, and just being aware of them and allowing them to really feel up. But that agency is so powerful because, again, I don't make decisions for people. I clear them for them to make choices. And they're recognizing their own power, their own will to
mhm.
choose for themselves. And that is, I think, the most important thing we can give people.
Yes.
They're not making mistakes. They're making choices.
Yes. Yeah. And you're just kind of just throwing out, just kind of help them pull those choices out in a sense, more so than telling them. Because a long time ago, Richard, people I used to say, well, you what I used to always tell people, well, you need to do this and this and this and this. And somebody pulled me to the side one day and said, Barbara, stop that. I said, what? They said, stop telling somebody what they need to do and suggest. Suggest. And I was like, oh. So that was a teachable moment for me, Richard. They really got on me. They said, you just, they said, we understand you're trying to be there for that person. We understand that you understand that maybe what they need, but when you start telling people you need to do this and you need to do that's a trigger in a lot of people's mind,
Mhm.
and they're going to
Yeah.
shut down.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
were right, Richard. They were right.
It's
Yes.
again well meant, but it's dependent. It said we have this generation. We grew up, we experienced our own pain, and we have a generation like my son's generation and older, where parents want to keep people from being hurt, so they did everything for them. But
Mm,
there's no experience for them. There's no experience for them to do anything to drive forward because they become just this incapacity to really choose for themselves.
yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, again, I think we can do too much, like I said. So sometimes we have to let people get scraped up and get hurt, and
Mm,
especially when things go on, and not shame them,
yeah.
not blame them, not I told you so.
Yes. Oh.
What like as all that comes in, we all grew up with that shame, blame, intolerance kind of stuff, and that shuts people down. But allowing them to have their experience and then say, what was it like?
Mm-hmm.
And I did some drug experimentation when I was really young, had an experience. My son did his. I said, how was your experience? He said, it was the same as me. Not for me.
Okay.
I didn't shame. I knew they were going to do stuff. We knew our kids were going to drink. We gave them booze to go to party. We had pickup times. They were there.
Mm-hmm.
We trusted them. They trusted themselves.
Yes. Yes. So glad they had a dad like you. That's like the extra gift.
I knew everything I didn't want to be, Barbara. I had a very difficult father, heart ex-military, but I also had another mentor who showed me who I could be.
Mm,
I was very, very blessed in my life. I had another family kind of took me under wing. That's another story, but I saw who I could be the way this man raised his children. And I said, I know I can be like him.
that's see. I always
And
call those like those other. I always say those other angels that come in your life that really just makes things and group makes your life even a different style when other people come in too, not just your parents, especially if the parents. And I have to say for myself, yeah, it was kind of, and then somebody comes in and kind of smooths that little part that it was a rough part patch. So I'm glad that you had that in your life too.
well,
That helps a lot.
in a sense, Barbara, we can blame our parents for things, and this was a more recent awareness. But sometimes the life says you needed someone who could give you a greater experience outside that for a reference. So my parents were good people, hardworking, but very small in their world. This other experience opened up so much of my awareness because of a bigger family, bigger dynamics. 50 years later, they're still my family.
Mm-hmm.
So that experience wasn't there, and they took me on the wing because they knew they had what I did not.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
they gave me a much richer experience and a much broader experience than I would have had my own parents tried to do this.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
And so but the biggest thing, I received them. They opened a door and I walked in and said, I'm here.
Yes, that's
They
that's
tricked
that's
me though.
key.
They said they had food. So I
Yeah.
said, okay.
She said that. Well, that works a lot of times. So yeah, good food, yeah, and dessert sometimes.
Yep.
But see that's what I love here because it's just you're getting the teachings, just like you said with the parents, like going back to my parents, and if it wasn't for certain things, like you said, I wouldn't be the person I am now. Now, it took me a while to understand that. When you're much younger, like in your teens and earlier, the only thing you're thinking about in your mind is, why they keep yelling at me or whatever's going, what's going on at the time. But when you're older now, I say, oh, it's like all of a sudden, Richard, my lens just opened up and said, oh, that's why that I dealt with that or whatever, because it made me even a stronger person now to understand certain things. So you're right. You're so true. So true. But I love the other angels that came in my life too. Like you said, you had other family people that came in and kind of opened that door for you. Now I want to make sure before we time goes so quickly. Talk a little bit about why time sweeps works in clearing patterns. I want to really hear that because I know that's a co-founder of a concept that you found.
Well, again, was developed with a friend of mine because we always realize there's something else. As much as we do these clearings and healings, there always seems to be another issue following. I call it the kaleidoscope effect. You get this one out of the way and something else drops in, no limitations. So time sweeps came quickly. Was my wife showed me a meme one time and said, people will remember you in a moment they had the most power over you. And I said, that's a timestamp. Because that sequence plays out over and over and over. That 5-year-old fighting with a 7-year-old or fighting with a mother still goes on 50 years later. It's a proven pattern. So I look at what's in that pattern. I said lots of stories, and stories are held in imagery. There's a book in that called The Healing Code that talks about that too. So I said if I address the imagery through the language, I'm clearing the pattern. And that's I started working with that. So we've created maps, we've created all kinds of dialogue with this, but when we say, and I talk from the surface down. I don't have to find the needle in the haystack. When is a key event? Because oftentimes we're searching, making it up. I just start working out what's the resistance to it. And just start clearing that, open, clear, delete, all listen. I'll just whatever the language we have prior to that, because we have, there's 6 stages of that in sense of that how these patterns work, because we have a pattern that goes on, we have attachment to the pattern. Even when we think we're moving away, we have resistance. So attachment, resistance, we have avoidance because we don't know what we don't want, we avoid it. We have comparison, media does that. We have competition, we have confusion. Therefore, we don't take action because we're in one of those 6 stages. So again, the time sweeps is so easy. We talk about the topic, the person does what I call a regulation hold. And I just start running clearings intuitively. And I just say, whatever this is, 2 fingers just on the edge of the wrist, either side. There's just that bone in there. Just sometimes you can put this on a desk or on your lap. Yeah. And just down about a hand's width down from your wrist joint. Yeah. And I just have them hold the wrist. And I'm saying, open all time sweeps to this resistance to speaking with your father-in-law. Whatever the topic is, or whatever we have worked out. We've had a previous dialogue, and a lot of it is intuitive language, because it's interesting with my work. I mean, you can see them and they're nodding. It's like I'm talking to the unconscious. I'm not in their head. I'm in their body. So it doesn't relive any traumatic patterns. I'm not here to have to talk about anything embarrassing or anything, because there's a lot of shame that people have gone through, a lot of very, very hard things. Yes. And I can talk about this incident, I can say the date or something. So they're aware of it, but we're not in the energy of it. I think that's what's key. There's so many ways I can still pull the energy out of the pattern and have some solution where there's relief. Because again, we have all these little, like I said, the picture behind me, all these little abstract pieces that still connect. Yes. That still have residue. And I'm really, again, with this work, again, it has much more effect than maybe the first time or so. It doesn't resonate because it's new. But I've had this work where my EFT didn't work, and I see people start to yawn and start to release. And again, it's just discussion. And my biggest thing is I give people a journey map. We start off with a map so they understand where they are, what the tensions are, and then they can see in the map where they're going. Because my work is helping people recognize their journey, their agency. I'm a guide. I'm not doing anything for them or with them. I want people to recognize their strength.
Yeah. And that's powerful, Richard, to do that more so than, like you said, leading them, because when they recognize their own strength, that's when the freedom comes for them, And you just kind of, like you said, you were just kind of just doing that little move in, throwing out some questions out there, taking them through certain tasks for them to understand that they, their inner strength is there. A lot of times, most of the time, I always say, Richard, the strength is there in people. They just sometimes don't recognize, or like you said, they have that little blockage that just needs
Yep.
to be unblocked. Yeah.
Yeah. And it can be something very simple, little things, as I said, with the resistance patterns, recognizing we're trying to not be like somebody, but there's so much unconscious resistance, just clearing the resistance so they can actually choose who they want to be from their center, not from not being, but for who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a little bit of work, choose a couple of values to work with, very simple stuff. I'm not one of these, I would call flexible values.
Mm-hmm.
What values do you need right now to do this? Well, let's choose stability. Let's choose, some planning or processes to move, to take care of what you need to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
So because you understand the outcome of those what I call current values,
Mm-hmm.
and you can switch, have that adaptability. When we want to make these hardcore, I want peace, I want to have good communication. Those are so broad, we don't know what the outcome is.
Yes.
So
Wow.
I'm specific on these action values, so you can move. And then what's your next stage? Where do you want to be? Because this becomes your new normal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's key. It's like, and again, we forget where we were.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the map comes in. Oh, 6 months ago, or I was here, I had struggle. Now, wow, okay, I did more than I thought.
Yes.
I want you to recognize you and your agency. So therefore you trust yourself. You trust who you are. This is where intuition comes in, and that gut feeling. We don't have to think about it. And in that comes choices. We make choices. We don't have to make these hard decisions. Choices create an opportunity for an experience and awareness, and we can make another choice. Because how many people have been shamed for making decisions?
Mm.
You
Oh,
made it. Live with the damn consequences, right? Well,
yes.
so what do? We avoid decisions.
Yeah. Because you don't want to make another one that's going to be like,
We,
ah,
we
you
don't
know,
want to make mistakes.
don't want to, Richard, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Oh my God. See, and you know what I love? I mean, this what time I get the conversation. I love these conversations, and then the time goes. But one thing I wanted to say is that I love how you basically take them through the journey and not rushing. Like you said, you have to have that patience within yourself to kind of go through that journey, because a lot of people are like, well, I just want to do it. They'll probably come to you, Richard, I just want to, whatever. And you're like, well, we have to, there's a pattern here that we have to kind of,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm glad that you start off and show people that has to happen, because I feel like if you rush into it, or just look at not the root of it, but just like the, first layer of it, it's not going to really move too much. Yeah.
Well, the symptom is never the root cause. The behavior, it could be something else, could be something severe, something abstract, right? The behavior comes from some situation, but
Mm-hmm.
just what's the behavior is finding that, kind of said what started this, but what behavior would you like to have?
Mm-hmm.
And then clearing those limitations. I'd like to have better, one thing I'm really good at is helping people with conflicts, because those are patterns we carry with us, So when I clear those patterns, you have a different conversation. I did it in my own life.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I used to, and then real quickly, I just you're talking about, the symptom compared to the root. For myself, I'll just use example as what we're talking about. I'll be the guinea pig, right? Is that when I was younger, I was growing up, I was heavily bullied. So a lot of people basically told me I wouldn't be nothing when I grow up. Why I even some people said, why even go to school, Barbara? Because you're stupid. I mean, basically they were telling me all that. And I turned my personality into being like a little jokester, like, because I was trying to get that, like that, well, children pleaser at the time is people pleaser now. I mean, I don't do that now, but I was just saying at the time I was trying to please, I was trying to do something for them not to talk about me in a certain way. So then when I got older and people said, oh, Barbara, you're just so entertaining, you're so funny. And then all of a sudden I felt a little trigger of like, well, what do you mean I'm entertaining? Well, I mean, I'm not your clown. I would say something like that. And had to really figure out, Richard, where was that really coming from? Because the symptom was like, okay, I'm getting defensive, right? But really deep down inside, maybe some of those triggers from when I was younger was coming out, and I was kind of, put it out there to people. So I had to work on that. Then I had to work that my personality. I'm just fun, and just, I like to have fun. It's not so much that I'm a clown, So I had to really get deeper on why I was, having those, like, just coming out in a bad way to people. Yeah.
Well, same. I was so shy growing up, people didn't know I spoke. This is all coming to me later in my life. I'm 68 now, and I'm still a work in progress, but I've had more fun in the last 8 years of my life, really being able to grow myself into somebody who is like this, like or not. I just, I was not like this person. I very quiet, very reserved. So now I'm much more, but I had to work on it. But I'm proud of myself because I like who I am.
Yeah, I'm proud that you're not shy anymore either, because you're helping out so many other people. We don't need you to be shy. So that was needed. You needed to, like I say, just bust out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So, you were the shy person, I was the jokester. To make sure that, but both of us, we needed to go through that so we can be who we are now, like you said. It's just that blockage. Going back to what you said about the blockage. So I'm loving this. Now, Richard, I want to make sure that any lasting thoughts. So I'm going to take myself down because I want you to say any golden nuggets that you want to leave with the audience, and then we'll make sure that they know how to contact you. So I'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Richard Morden. I'm an NLP and EFT practitioner, co-founder of Time Sweeps. I love helping people through patterns of resistance, patterns of behavior, especially, you said, those conflicts where we don't have our voice. I understand, and I know what that's like, not having a voice for many years. So when you're able to speak up for yourself in a good and positive way, in an informative way, not in a way that's abstract, that's my strength, helping you have your voice first for yourself, having your own agency. You choose for you, not for some outside external force. And, this is an inside journey. When you actually have some acceptance, acknowledgement, and compassion of yourself, this is what it's all about. It's not fixing, it's not healing. It's a healing process. But when I really learned to like myself underneath all the pain, I was pretty happy with that. And I'm still happy to this day. And I'm happy to be here to offer any sort of support, any questions, any converse. Please reach out. I'm happy to have a conversation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. You have been just a breath of fresh air today, and just really talking about what you do for others. And that's what we do here. We want to spotlight the wonderful experts. Prime example, King Richard, to spotlight how he advises not just for life, but in life and in business, and to understand who you are, because it always starts with you first. So I say that because that's why I tell people, if you need to have a coach, if you need to have a mentor in your life to get to who you truly are, so you can be that lighthouse in the world for others, please make sure that you invest in yourself, because that's more important than anything you can do, is investing in you. And, if you want to invest with Richard, he is here. I'm going to put his contact information down here again. Yes, I'm putting it out there. I want people to reach out to Richard. And please just contact him at his email down below. Also, if you don't see it, or if you're like, okay, it went too fast, reach out to me. There's no excuses. No excuses. Because if you can't see that, I know Richard, and I know exactly how to get to him, so you can have the life that you need in order to grow and move that needle in your life. So with that said, everybody, again, Richard, thank you. It was an honor, a pleasure. I would love to have you again. You are always welcome here. If anything nuances come up in your life, please, we're here at the Coaches Lounge. We're here to support you. We're here to give you the visibility that you really, really, truly deserve. And with that, I just want to tell everybody, again, make sure that you care about you first, because as they say, the old saying that you have to put the oxygen mask on you first before you can help so many others in life. So yes, make sure you have that oxygen, make sure that you are truly living your true life. We'll see you at the next Coaches Lounge. Take care.
Thank you.
Introducing the Diamond Factor Network, where we turn your business into a beacon of success. Imagine having your TV streaming show reaching audiences far and wide. It's possible with the Diamond Factor Network. Unlock the power of your brand with our state-of-the-art TV streaming platform. Your show, your way. Feature highlights, customized shows, global reach, and professional support. Coaching by Barbara J. Beckley, Purpose, Visibility, and Social Media Strategist. Ready to elevate your brand? Join the Diamond Factor Network today and let your brilliance light up the world. Shine bright because your success is our priority.